Hi everyone, we're here with Eamon McCarthy, and Eamon is a resident here in Railway Road, and we're just going to do a bit of catch up with Eamon and get a bit of family history and all that. Hi Eamon.
Paudie, how are you?
Good. Thanks for coming out, thanks
no
for talking. Yeah. You're here in Railway Road, Eamon, and your family?
I've lived in Railway Road, Ballysally all my life.
Yeah.
I'm a son of Eamon McCarthy.
Yeah.
And my mother was Mary Cusson. She was originally from Kilbreen.
Okay.
And there was 5 of us. Anne, my elder sister, she's the oldest in the family. Myself, then Joan, Michael and Francis.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's such a different world now, looking back when you tell people. But when I was a small child, my earliest memories were of, we were at a dairy farm, and we had a pair of horses, no tractor. It sounds now like you're going back to famine times. And like up till the age of 8 or 10, I think we had a black horse and a brown horse, and we used to have great fun with them, running in under the legs of them and all that kind of thing. And I suppose one of the big things was every summer seemed to be consumed with cutting hay and bringing in the hay. Yeah. And like there could be 20 or 25 people around bringing in the hay. Yeah. And I suppose the other person that was
the neighbours helping out,
the neighbours
over, and you go over to them and all that. Yeah?
Exactly. Yeah. The adult neighbours helping, but the children having fun on the float. That was the horse and the float to bring in the wines of hay. And so it was great fun, and great memories of those. But we had a man. Every farm had a man working with them that time, and we were no different. We had a man called George O'Driscoll. He was from Mount Blakeney. Yeah. He didn't just work on the farm, he lived in the house, but he was part of our family. In fact, I think for years I nearly thought he was my father. He was a lovely, kind...
So he moved and boarded at the house?
Full time. He rarely went home, Paudie, and he was a lovely man. We had great memories, and I know people of an older generation remember George with great fondness now.
How long, do you know how long your family are here in Ballysally?
I don't, Paudie, but we're certainly here 4 or 5 generations. I've yet to go back.
Farther. And it was always dairy farming.
It was.
Down your father's father, he was dairy farming.
He was, and I'd say he was more a gentleman farmer in that time. As far as I can remember, my father worked extremely hard, and I had to work. You work hard at it, but it seems in his generation, he had people in doing the work, and he was out shooting and fishing.
So he was doing all right out of it. The milk prices must have been all right at the time. Did your mother have any activities herself? Was she involved in anything around the town?
Well, she was very involved in the farm. With 5 children, and my brother Michael has special needs. And she used to milk the cows every morning, and then come and get us ready for school and all the work. She worked very hard. But she came from a farming background, and she knew what she was getting into. She did.
Did she do anything? Was she involved in anything in the town? Did she ever get the ICA or that kind of stuff?
No, she was a very quiet woman, a religious woman. And a family woman.
As you said, with 5 children to raise.
I said she had more than enough to be doing.
Enough to be done. You went to school in the Brothers' Home?
I did. You did. I did. Actually, we were the last generation that went to what's the schoolyard theatre now. It was race school. I've spent 12 months there. I think I spent about 3 months in the main street, that was the school that time, before the new school was built where it is now down Baker's Road. So we kind of saw the last of the old and the beginning of the new.
Right, So you hit the 3 of them as well?
We hit the 3 of them, Race school was very primitive. To get into the 3rd classroom, you had to go through the first 2, and there used to be rat holes on the skirting board. The toilet was... find a wall around the back.
That was terrible.
But we look back, like you do in all things, like you look back on the summers, as long hot summers like we have today, a beautiful day. But they were, you remember the good days, and we had good days in race school. But I suppose, if you were a parent today, sending your child there, you would say, "No, mother of God."
You love the GA as well.
I do.
You like the hurling and Charleville. Cork and all that,
My father,
and you played yourself, didn't you?
I did.
With your father,
my father played hurling with Charleville, and I suppose he instilled the love of sport in me, and I think I've instilled in my son, and yourself, the Foleys, you're part and parcel of Charleville GA. It's just, if you grow up with it, it's part of your year, isn't it?
When's the last time you donned the jersey yourself?
Oh, I think it was the year I got married, 1986, I'd say.
86, yeah.
I retired young, Paudie.
Yeah.
Jimmy Barry and myself went by.
You had the peak of your career. Yeah. But you enjoyed it, Em. You were a good player yourself, Em.
Ah, sure, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Do you know, going back to my youth, like our youth seemed to be filled with obviously doing the hay and all that, and then the other part of it was out in the garden tinning turnips and beetroot and lettuce and all that kind of thing. But the evenings after the cows were milked and the supper ate, you'd be out with the hurley in the hand or kicking a ball, and I suppose just for the sheer enjoyment out of it. And then when you go to school, you end up being on teams and then the local club. But there was nothing ever compared to the enjoyment when you start off. As you get older and get into adulthood, like it's about winning, and I get that. But you kind of lose a bit of the fun,
the freedom and the fun and the joy and just the expression.
Yeah, because kids should play a sport for the fun. And
you would have been, I'd say, you'd have been on a team that nearly won in All Ireland. Were you on that team?
I'd left school the year before. I was I left school at Intercert, and I suppose I had no regrets academically leaving school, but I missed the hurling.
You missed that, yeah. Joe, my brother Joe, Garrett, Howard and all them, you would have been on it around that same team.
I'd have been close to being on that team. I played with those lads up to that point. They had a very good team.
They was a very good team. They were unlucky.
Garrett Howard was a serious player from Croom.
He would have played with Limerick after, didn't he?
He did, and we had a good few. Conor Donovan was in that.
Conor did a Limerick, a Tipperary, and back a Limerick, or was it the other way around?
The other way around.
Yeah. There were some good players in that
team.
Good
players, yeah.
And Charlevin doing very well at the moment.
Tis a joy to see him. I mean, like we slogged so long in the North Cork to get out of junior, to go from there now where you're talking about. I mean, I going back to the old days. I was hearing my father on about in the 40s playing the Glen and the bars and all that. That was so far removed when we grown up, and now here we are back again, and it's wonderful. They're a great bunch of lads.
They're great, and the commitment, and it takes a lot. As the coach Rickard said the other night, he said, you got a bunch of lads up flying, keep them flying, And
a rising tide, the young lads look up to them, so we have good young lads coming through, and the future looks very bright. And the other big thing, Paudie, they play football as well. I love football when I grown up. But sure, the only time we ever saw football nearly was going out the night of the championship match.
No, you didn't.
You were handed a football going out onto the pitch.
No. There was no football training whatsoever. There was one man right years ago, you might remember him. Was it Jerry Daly? Was it Jerry Daly or John Daly? John Daly. He was knocking the gree, a teacher.
Oh, John Finton Daly, yeah.
Was it?
Is it him?
He liked the football. He used to coach us a bit of football.
And there's no reason why you can't do both, And they're doing it now and very successfully.
Your other, I suppose, if you want to call it, you mentioned brother Michael, his special needs. You got involved with St. Joseph's Foundation.
I did, Paudie.
You're chairman of the board there now.
Well, I'm not at the minute now. I'm gone from it, but I was for about 11 years. I suppose I always an interest in special needs because Michael, my brother. Was born with a thing called PKU. That's an abbreviation. It's to do with protein in the brain, and anyone that ever had a baby, they know the baby has a heel test when they're born. That's what they're
prick test.
Exactly, and that's what they're testing for is PKU. Now most people know what it is because thankfully 99.99 whatever % of babies don't have it. Michael was very unfortunate. He was born in 1965 and the heel test didn't come until 1966. If he was born a year later, he probably would have been picked up at birth. So by the time they realised there was something wrong, it was too late. The damage was done. But like Michael didn't ever know any different, but he's now living in Hazelville, the retirement home in St. Joseph's, and he's very happy there. He's getting wonderful care.
The respite houses that they have now, Eamon, they're fantastic.
This is a residential house now, but
so he's there full time.
He's there full time, and he loves it. Loves it.
And obviously the friends that he has there, and the company, and the carers that are there, they're fantastic.
They're fantastic people. Fantastic people. I couldn't speak highly enough of them.
Right, And again, I suppose go back to like when Dr. O'Donnell, when he started, when he had the vision, I suppose, to start St. Joseph's, and some of the conditions that a lot of that people found themselves in at the time. We talked about the schools earlier on and the conditions, but some of the conditions, I suppose, that some of the lads were living in were very poor as well, you know.
Well, I suppose I wouldn't recall it as such, but
Yeah.
Dr. O'Donnell often spoke. I heard him speak of it. You know, he was a new GP in Charleville, and in the course of he going around on his visits, like he came across people with special needs hidden away, really.
Hidden away, that's right.
There was even neighbours that wouldn't have known that there was a child down the road with special needs.
Yeah.
So if he left any legacy, and he has left a huge legacy, is he brought people with special needs into the community, front and centre.
That's right. As you mentioned, like, out of the shadows.
Out of the shadows.
They were hidden away, they were, you know, shunned.
Almost a stigma attached in some cases, I think. But thankfully that day is long gone.
And from humble beginnings in town, you know, one day or half a day, and in school kids, to where it is now, and the numbers is
and people
incredible.
bringing in people on a voluntary basis, like your own father and mother, on a voluntary basis in their car, and like you know, we've come a long way, and in some ways we've taken a step back because you know, couldn't do anything like that for all sorts of reasons. But that, you know, that volunteering, that genuine volunteer thing, I hope we never lose that spirit of that.
As you talk about memories, earliest memories, I'm only 4, maybe 5, and some of the lads that were coming into town back from Milford, or they were back from Mealan, and the father and the mother would bring them up into the house, and they were having supper above. I knew nothing different to any lads coming into the house with special needs when they were, as I say, hidden away in their own neighbourhoods. But jeez, there was lads in and out around my house since we were that height, you know, and you never do. And I suppose,
and you know them by name as opposed to a disability.
Oh, geez, that's it. But and I suppose it's like anyone that might be considered different. The more people get to know people and talk to them, and you know, there isn't a difference anymore. Then you know. Because you know everybody's.
And I suppose you know the way the wheel turns. Like I got married in '86 to Chrissy, and we had 2 children, and our second child, Kira, was born with Down syndrome.
Right.
So you know, the wheel turned, and I had a brother with special needs, and then I have a daughter, and you know, like some people look upon it as a kind of, for all sorts of reasons, as a kind of a tragedy or a disaster. Kira's been a joy in our life, you know, and I couldn't say anything other than that. But after she been born, now going back to your question, really, I was asked would I go on the board of St. Joseph's because of Kira being born. So I thought about it, and I said, look, St. Joseph had been very good to my brother and to our family, so I said, you know, I was delighted and honoured to be asked, and I was on the board for, I don't know, maybe 12 years when Dr. O'Donnell stepped down as chair, and I was honoured to be asked would I become chairperson. I was filling big shoes, but delighted to do it.
No better man.
Well, I was delighted to do it, Paudie. It's a wonderful organisation and wonderful people involved.
Well, under the 12 years that you've been there, Eamon, you know, I mean, the thing like went from strength to strength and grew, and you know, there's more demand and more need, and thankfully St. Joseph's has been able to fill it. You know?
and that's it, Paudie. You summed up. There's more demand and more need, and that's the way it's going to continue to evolve. You know, people expect services and demand, and absolutely entitled to demand. I think St. Joseph's has always been a leader, though, in terms of rollout of services, like Liskinnet being a prime example for people with autism. Like there isn't a centre like it in the country.
Fantastic,
and there's fantastic work going on there under the stewardship of David Doyle and his fantastic team there. And like it's a privilege to have Liskinnet associated with Foundation.
Very good. Well, Eamon, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you,
and
Paudie.
I think we've kind of covered a lot of the bases anyway, a bit of history and a bit of this and a bit of that, a bit of GA and St. Joseph's and all that.
All the
and
important
we're
things.
here at the railway, and the fellas said thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Paudie.
Right.